if people are willing to accept the concept of extraterrestrials, what happens when they start saying, well, yeah, they actually planted your DNA and they're your creators? Now, is that far-fetched?
Hidden beneath the sands of Iraq, archaeologists have unearthed clay tablets older than the Bible, older than the pyramids of Egypt. Etched on their surfaces are stories of beings who descended from the sky, beings who taught humanity how to write, how to measure time, how to build cities, how to track the heavens. It sounds like Hollywood science fiction, but these words were carved more than 5,000 years ago by the first civilization we know, the Sumerians. The surprise is, historians agree that the Sumerians gave us writing, mathematics, irrigation systems, even the base 60 system we still use on our clocks. But the Sumerians themselves insisted they did not invent these things. They said they were taught by the Anunnaki. Some clay tablets describe the Anunnaki as gods ruling heaven and earth, deciding the fate of humanity.
You will find that there are already many people who believe in the Anunnaki as their alien gods, and they do believe a time will come when they will return to Earth to be worshipped.
So no matter where you go in any culture, you're going to discover that these beings, in some way, shape, or form, engaged mankind, brought knowledge, teaching, building techniques, and just so much more wisdom and information, esoteric wisdom, alchemy. All these things came from these people.
So the craziest version of this story is that they genetically engineered us out of lower primates.
Now, imagine if the devils amongst the Jinn worked together with the devils amongst humanity to create this narrative to misguide the masses to commit the greatest of all sins, shirk.
We know recently that the government has reached out to churches. This was reported that because we're dropping this information, there's going to be a type of disclosure. It's a good idea to speak to your congregation about this. Okay. If they're speaking with church leaders, do we think that eventually this won't come to Muslim leadership? It will.
Okay.
What will be the response? Well, one response would be like, oh, that's just conspiracy theory. We're not. But we've moved on from there, right? This has been taken, this has academic seriousness to it. Let's say they reach out now to Muslim leadership. Now, Muslim leadership can say, well, yeah, okay, we'll agree with what you said. Fair enough. It could be aliens, extraterrestrials that have come from outer space, and they're now here, and they're maybe visiting, or whatever it may be. That's the general narrative that's what generally people think of when they think of aliens, right? When we come back when we come back to our tradition, one way of explaining it is the aliens. But another way of explaining it is by way of the Jinn, right? And this is part of our tradition. The Jinn have been a phenomenon since the beginning of history.
We can add our essence to it with a slain god. So they're talking about taking the DNA or genetics from one of themselves and mixing it with the DNA of the hominid that was here. It's not specified whether it was, an ape man or anything, but they don't specify in the tablets. But to create a worker being. And they began to do this genetic modification, probably disconnecting some of our DNA, making genetic modifications to us.
Now, is it really, if we're looking at the phenomena of Jinn, the point we want to understand here is you have the extraterrestrial hypothesis. The point is, what is the objective of the extraterrestrials? Let's say when it comes to abductions. Okay, so they're trying to analyze human beings. They want to know what? They're trying to study something. Okay. But with Jinn, we know that or let's say evil Jinn, we know that they have an objective, and that's to move people away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to reject Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If we look at the quintessential Jinn, it was shaitan, right? That's the objective. And this is a phenomenon that's happened throughout history. It's not a new phenomenon. Is it really that difficult for us to now presume that the Jinn of today would use the techno-secular world and our understanding of that world as a tool to deviate people from the worship of Allah? Is it really that difficult to imagine? A French researcher, Jacques Vallée, and one of his books, he talks about the deception of the of these aliens, which I don't think he thinks they're actually aliens, he said that one of the aspects of that is that deception is at the core of all of these experiences, right? So deception is there, it's well documented. If the US government reaches out, then we want to have some sort of response. Why? Because if this is truly a deceptive tactic from the jinn, it's just, la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan. It's step by step. It's not like, here, go do some shirk. It's like, here, these are aliens. Does your community accept? Yes, we're okay with, it's theologically allowed for us to accept extraterrestrials. Okay, step number 2, this is what they are. This is the disclosure. And by the way, they created you. Now you have to backtrack and kind of retroactively be, wait, we need a response. Before we get there, we have a response. It's a robust response. It has explanatory power, depth.
So you're really thinking ahead to when the aliens claim that they created us.
If that's the case, if it happens, we need to be ready, right? And this is not for everyone. I'm not saying every Muslim needs to go down this rabbit hole.
Sure.
But at least like leaders of the community should at least have a familiarity with it. Again, you don't have to go down this rabbit hole. There's a lot of research that, that has been done, by these group of brothers and mashayikh and others. Not everyone has to get engaged in it, and they shouldn't, right? But the other thing that I think is really fascinating, aside from the dawah point, aside from, that outreach to communities, if and when this happens, we already have the 2 drops of the files with more coming. And we have indications within our media landscape, such as Disclosure Day, kind of indicating, pushing people to a certain narrative about disclosure. But aside from the dawah and the communities and leadership, the other aspect to this is, we've been living in a techno-secular world for quite some time. And our whole conversation has been centered around experience. Yes, we believe in the jinn, but I think a lot of times our belief in the jinn is more like a pledge. Like, we affirm that they're a jinn.
Yeah.
But to really understand, like, there's actually jinn, they actually exist. They actually, you have a qareen that's now influencing you, right? So, these things are not just things that you memorize, right? There's not adhkar that you memorize, and because it's a tradition, and if that's what you're doing, alhamdulillah, it's fine. But it brings a certain kind of experience which says the jinn are actually real. They do actually have an influence. They're going to take different forms. Is it really that far-fetched that they would take a form based on the techno-secular world that we live in?
Although the thought of aliens may seem crazy to many Muslims today, we must understand that the global elite have spent decades indoctrinating our minds and thoughts on what aliens are, using millions of dollars invested in movies, TV shows, and documentaries. As we live in the age of deception, things are never as they seem.
At one point you had said that there has been harmful activity or aggressive activity. Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and I got
by UAPs or by people within the federal government?
both.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
These movies would, on some level, inspired by unseen forces to put out a specific narrative for the secular world, which should eventually lead to an end game. Because now you create this idea of aliens from another planet. You make the genre very popular. Okay, now that's within the mind, the psyche of the modern man and woman. As soon as people start seeing lights in the sky today, automatically they say alien. Automatically they say craft, because modern man sees planes, aeroplanes, they are craft. Sometimes they're just seeing a ball of light in the sky. Why are you assuming it's a craft? There's nothing about your your experience, which tells you it's a physical, mechanical craft, but you assume that. Again, it's the psyche. It's the way the modern mind is developed and influenced, if you like. You can say they're the extremist, evil jinn that are called the shayateen. They're just like amongst humans. You know, there are shayateen amongst the humans, and there's many in the world today. So there's, and they're probably working with the shayateen amongst the jinn. Because we know in Surah Jinn, for example, there's an ayah which mentions that, you know, on the day, you know, some of you benefited from the others. I'm paraphrasing again. That, you know, some of the humans sought refuge amongst some of the jinn, and they only increased them in evil, basically. So there is this stuff going on in the world, and Epstein is a prime example of this in his worship of Baal, or what he called Baal, which was a shaitan essentially. But anyway, the other point of intent is that shayateen want to mislead, they want to misguide the evil amongst the jinn. If you look at historically how they've been doing it, the tricks of the strategy's always been the same, right? Strategy has been either waswasa, and the other method has been appear to people in a form which is far superior to them, so that people are in awe of that thing, and then eventually they lead people to the worship of that thing. So in ancient Greek times, it was Zeus and Thor and all of these gods. They took on these forms. In Arabia, they took on forms of many different deities and beings. In other parts of the world, bro, they've taken on different forms of other gods and entities and beings. You know,
so the intent leads to shirk billah.
Yeah, they appear in forms that are far more superior. People are in awe. People submit, right? Take them as gods, as deities. Now that concept is very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, because that's documented for as long as we know about mankind.
Yeah. So let me ask you the question, bro. Back then, they appeared as gods because back then, for people, the religious life was the key aspect of their day-to-day existence. Today, we live in the 21st century, the modern secular liberal world. What are people all about today?
Robots and technology, modernity.
Exactly. Technological advancement. We pride ourselves over this.
So to impress the people of today, you'd have to manifest in a way in which is very technologically advanced to the extent where we can't even explain it.
We're doing a bit of game theory here. It's very interesting.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, but that's what's going. Essentially, what my conclusion is, what's happening is the techno-secular mind.
I've never imagined so much during a podcast, and having this episode, I mean that.
Yeah. No, alhamdulillah.
I'm grappling with my own notions that have been shaped so much by the Western Hollywood notion of aliens and the sci-fi genre.
Yeah. But there's another issue as well, is that from a Muslim perspective, our concept of jinn is so limited, bro.
Yeah.
And and some of the reasons because there's so much fear associated with them. Don't even think about them. But Allah mentions them constantly throughout the Quran. Why? Because it's relevant to us, bro. But anyway, the point, just to make the point here, the techno-secular mind, all their God or their religion is technology, is advancements. For the politicians, the governments of the world, for them, technological advancements are central, bro. You know, to their dominance and supremacy over other nations. Now, some of the best technology of the world, you can say, is found in America, and some of the best technology is these fighter jets that they have, right? That they deploy. Now, what better way of appearing to the 21st century man or woman who's obsessed with technological advancements, to appear in a form which absolutely, you know, bamboozles you from the perspective of running circles around the best technology they have. They're flying the F-18s and the F-22s, and these things are just outrunning them, outmaneuvering them. You're going to be in awe, right? You're going to believe they're far superior. It's the same game, just the different guys, bro. So ultimately, I think it's leading towards an end game, which is, and now these narratives are emerging, that these aliens created you. They tinkered with the genome. You know, they developed you on Earth. Essentially, they're your gods without using the label
Where are those
God.
Conversations taking place?
They're happening on podcasts already, bro, right? So, for example, I'll give you a few examples. There was a recent podcast. I'll share the link with you. Remind me. There's an ex-DARPA scientist who worked for the government, I believe, who came out and he essentially, and he's a scientist. Now, he was put in touch by an ex-CIA agent called Jim Simivan, and he's an important guy that I need to speak about in a second, with a guy called Chris Bledsoe. Now, Chris Bledsoe is known as a prophet amongst the UFO followers, right? He has his own cult going now. He's in contact with these entities. They appear to him on command, right? He takes people out, gatherings, you know, he would point towards the sky and these orbs would appear in the sky, right? They give him messages, etc.
Who's documented that? Who's witnessed those things?
They've got some videos online and stuff.
Okay.
There's some stuff. He's got his own channel. He shares stuff.
Have you
on
seen
as
any
well.
of these videos?
Yeah, there's clips of him. It's just orbs and lights. The documentaries done on him as well,
Okay.
where he on command his stuff comes up in the sky, etc. Yeah, he's not the only one. There's several guys like this. Stephen Greer is another one. Yeah, he believes these are all good aliens. You know, there's nothing evil about them. Yeah, and he again does something called CE5. He takes people out into deserts. You know, these are paid events, I believe, and you know they do these Hindu chants, by the way, Hindu rituals they conduct. Yeah, he got videos of him doing a Hindu ritual, and then you know these things start appearing, right? And you think, what has Hindu rituals got to do with extraterrestrial beings from another planet?
I can see the link.
Yeah, what with aliens?
With aliens, just generally, if you look at the manifestation of Hindu deities,
Yeah, yeah.
they look very alienish.
Yeah, so no, but with things with the shayateen, you would assume that they would come through these
Yes,
chants and stuff.
of course.
But just if it was a purely biological creature from another planet, why would they be interested in coming, responding to a Hindu chant?
Hindu chant, yeah.
So these guys do this. So anyway, Simeon puts this guy in touch with him. He spends time with him, and he after he's spending time with him, he comes out and he says, "I believe these aliens created us." Right? D.W. Pasulka in a book, American Cosmic. She also, because she's a religious studies professor, she mentions that if you look at the whole UFO phenomena, it's almost like we're at the cusp of a new religion, because there's sacred sites now where these things land and or crash. People go to these sites. They're like spiritual sites for them. People go and do certain rituals there sometimes, etc. So it's very interesting the stuff that's going on there as well. So there's several guys that are coming out with this type of narrative now.